The Johannesburg skyline glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows of Sterling Enterprises Tower, casting a warm glow over the polished granite floors. It was 2:30 a.m., and Thabo Mokoena, a 24-year-old cleaning boy, dragged his mop across the executive floor with heavy limbs. He'd been working since noon, juggling his day job as a barista, in Sandton with this night shift to make ends meet. The scent of pine cleaner clung to his worn uniform, and his old tacky squeaked faintly as he moved. Exhaustion weighed on him like a heavy blanket, and the plush leather sofa in the corner of the executive lounge beckoned like an oasis. Just a quick rest, Thabo muttered, glancing at the empty corridor. The security guard was on his rounds, and Thabo's shift wouldn't end for another hour. He sank into the sofa, the soft leather cradling his aching body. His cleaning cart stood nearby, a silent companion, as his eyelids fluttered shut. Within moments, sleep pulled him under his name tag, Thabo M, glinting faintly in the dim light. The lounge seemed to transform around the sleeping young man, the harsh corporate edges softened by the warm glow of the city lights. His short, coiled hair rested against the cream leather, and his usually tense face relaxed, revealing a quiet handsomeness smoothed by sleep. The faint rhythm of his breathing was the only sound in the stillness, painting a picture of a young man who carried the weight of the world but found peace in the stolen moment. At 3:15 a.m., Jane Mbatha stepped out her private elevator, her heels clicking sharply against the granite. At 32, she was a billionaire CEO of Sterling Enterprises, a tech empire she'd built from a small startup in Pretoria. Sleepless nights were her norm, driven by restless ambition and the loneliness that came with her success. Her tailored blazer was slightly creased from pacing her penthouse office, and her braided hair was pulled into a loose bun, strands escaping in her agitation. She crossed the lounge, heading for her office, when something stopped her dead in her tracks. There, on the sofa, lay a young man, his face serene in sleep. Jane's breath caught. His peaceful expression, the way his lips curved slightly as if dreaming of something joyful, struck her like lightning. For a woman who navigated boardrooms and global markets with unflinching confidence, Jane was suddenly rooted to the spot, her heart racing in a way she hadn't felt since her university days. He was beautiful, not in the polished way of the men she usually met, but in a raw, unguarded way that made the sterile lounge feel alive. Jane had dated diplomats, tech moguls, and celebrities, but none had stirred her like this stranger. She noticed a cleaning cart nearby and realized he was one of her employees, working the night shift while she strategized in her glass-walled office. The contrast hit her hard, her life of luxury against his quiet struggle. She stepped closer, careful not to wake him, her gaze tracing the lines of his face. The faint scent of soap lingered around him, grounding her in a way she couldn't explain. "Excuse me," she whispered, kneeling beside the sofa, her voice softer than it had ever been in a negotiation. When he didn't stir, she gently touched his shoulder, a spark of warmth shooting through her at the contact. "You need to wake up." Thabo's eyes opened slowly, meeting her dark, intense gaze with sleepy confusion. Then reality crashed in. He bolted upright, his face flushing with panic. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to. I swear it was just a moment. Please, I need this job." His voice was rough with sleep and fear, his hands trembling as he stood. Jane's heart twisted at his distress. Instead of the reprimand he expected, she saw only warmth in her eyes, and something deeper, something that made his pulse quicken for reasons beyond fear. "It's okay," she said, her voice calm and kind. "You're not in trouble. This floor looks spotless. You've been working hard." Thabo blinked, caught off guard by her gentleness. Her elegant attire and confident presence marked her as someone important, maybe even the CEO he'd heard about in hushed tones. Thank you," he stammered, unsure why this powerful woman was looking at him like he was more than just a cleaner. "I'm Jane," she said, extending a hand. "And you are—" "Thabo Mokoena," he replied, shaking her hand, the brief contact sending an unexpected warmth through him. "Thabo," she repeated, her voice lingering on his name as if savoring it. "It's a pleasure to meet you." The security guard's footsteps echoed down the hall, and Jane's expression shifted to one of quiet resolve. Let's get you to the service elevator so you can finish your shift safely." As they walked, Thabo stole glances at her, confused by her kindness and the way her presence made the air feel charged. At the elevator, Jane turned to him, her eyes searching. "Do you work multiple jobs, Thabo?" He nodded reluctantly, expecting judgment. Instead, her jaw tightened, not at him, but the unfairness of it all. "Take care of yourself," she said softly as the elevator doors closed, leaving Thabo wondering what had just happened and why his heart wouldn't stop racing. For the next 3 days, Jane couldn't focus. Board meetings blurred into thoughts of Thabo's peaceful face, his quiet strength, his nervous smile. She found herself lingering in her office late at night, hoping to catch a glimpse of him during his shift. Her assistant, Lindai, noticed a change immediately. The usually laser-focused CEO was distracted, her sharp decisions softened by daydreams. Jane even smiled at a junior analyst in the hallway, a rare occurrence that sparked whispers among the staff. Against her better judgment, Jane began wandering the building during Thabo's shifts, claiming she needed to inspect cleaning standards or review security logs. Her team was baffled by her sudden interest in operations she'd never cared about before. On the third night, her persistence paid off. She spotted Thabo in the 15th floor break room, sitting alone with a cup of instant coffee and a worn textbook on coding propped against his water bottle. His dedication, even in exhaustion, made her chest ache with admiration. From the shadowed hallway, she watched him rub his eyes and stretch, his resilience stirring something deep within her. Jane had always controlled her world, but Thabo Mokoena was unraveling her carefully built defenses. That night, she made a bold decision. She called her HR director, waking her at 2 a.m. with instructions for an immediate, anonymous wage increase for the night cleaning staff, enough to let Thabo quit his second job. She also ordered the break room stocked with fresh fruit, sandwiches, and coffee machines, framing it as an employee wellness initiative. The next evening, Thabo found notice in his locker about the wage increase. He stared at it, tears prickling his eyes. The raise meant he could quit his barista job and maybe even enroll in a coding boot camp. The break room now had fresh apples and a steaming coffee machine, small luxuries that felt like miracles. He had no idea that the woman behind these changes was losing sleep thinking about him. 2 weeks later, disaster struck. Thabo was cleaning the 35th floor when the service elevator jolted to a stop between floors, trapping him inside with his cart. His phone had no signal, and the emergency button was unresponsive. Panic crept in as the walls seemed to close around him. He banged on the doors, his shouts echoing uselessly in the confined space. Jane was working late when security alerted her to the elevator malfunction. Her heart sank when she learned someone was trapped. She rushed to the scene, where the maintenance crew was already working. "Who's inside?" she asked, her voice tight. "We're not sure, ma'am," the guard replied. Jane grabbed a radio. "Hello? Can you hear me? We're getting you out." "Thabo," came the shaky reply, and Jane's world tilted. Of all the people, it was him. "Thabo, it's Jane," she said, her voice softening. "From the lounge. You're going to be okay. I'm right here." For 45 minutes, Jane stayed by the elevator, talking to Thabo through the doors, her calm voice anchoring him. When the doors finally opened, Thabo was sitting on the floor, surrounded by cleaning supplies, his face pale, but lighting up at the sight of her. "Jane," he breathed, her name carrying a weight he didn't understand. She knelt beside him, checking for injuries, her hands gentle. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice thick with worry. "I'm fine now," he said, meeting her gaze. Their hands brushed as she helped him up, a spark passing between them. The maintenance crew watched, puzzled, as their formidable CEO fussed over a cleaner with a tenderness they'd never seen. "You're going home early tonight," Jane said firmly, "and tomorrow come to my office. We need to talk about your role here." Thabo nodded, overwhelmed by her care and intensity in her eyes. As he left, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change. Thabo spent the next day in a haze of nerves, wondering what Jane wanted. He arrived at her office in his best shirt, a faded but neat button-up, and was led by her assistant through a hallway of glass and steel to an office that dwarfed his tiny Soweto flat. Jane stood from behind her desk, not in her usual power suit, but in a simple blouse, her expression nervous. "Thabo, thank you for coming," she said, gesturing to a chair. Instead of sitting behind her desk, she pulled a chair to face him. "I need to tell you something, and I hope you won't think less of me." Thabo's heart pounded. "Okay. My name is Jane Mbatha, and I'm the CEO of Sterling Enterprises," she said, watching his reaction. Thabo's eyes widened. The whispers about the brilliant, untouchable CEO flooded back. This was her? "You're the Jane Mbatha?" he asked, stunned. She nodded, bracing for judgment, but Thabo's face showed only awe. "I needed you to know who I am before I say this," she continued, her voice trembling. "Since I saw you sleeping in the lounge, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. You've turned my world upside down, Thabo. I think I'm falling in love with you." Thabo stared, his mind reeling. A billionaire CEO in love with him? It seemed impossible, but the sincerity in her eyes was undeniable. "Jane, I've been thinking about you too," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every night, I hope I'll see you. But I'm just a cleaner. How could this work?" Jane leaned closer, her eyes fierce with conviction. "It works if we want it to. I don't care about your job or my title. I care about you." Jane's idea of first date was dinner at Cape Town's most exclusive restaurant, a place with ocean views and a wine list longer than Thabo's monthly budget. Thabo arrived in his best outfit, a borrowed blazer and slacks, but felt like an imposter among the glittering patrons. The evening was a mess. Waiters fawned over Jane, business associates interrupted, and Thabo felt every stare judging his presence. The intricate dishes were foreign to him, and Jane's attempts at conversation were drowned out by the restaurant's opulence. In her car afterward, the silence was heavy. "I'm sorry," Jane said, gripping the steering wheel. "I want to give you something special, but I made you uncomfortable." "It's not you," Thabo said softly. "It's this world. I don't belong here. Maybe we need a place where we can just be us." Jane nodded, her heart aching but hopeful. "Let's try that." The next night, Jane appeared during Thabo's shift in jeans and a T-shirt, a far cry from her CEO attire. "Teach me to clean," she said with a grin. Thabo laughed, thinking she was joking, but her earnestness won him over. For hours, they worked side by side. Jane was hopeless with mop, leaving streaks and spilling cleaner, but her laughter and willingness to learn disarmed Thabo completely. They talked about their lives, her childhood in Pretoria, his dreams of coding, their shared love for amapiano music. For the first time, they were just Jane and Thabo, not CEO and cleaner. Their secret meetings continued, stolen moments in empty offices and quiet stairwells. Jane shared her loneliness at the top. Thabo confessed his struggles to support his family. Their differences faded, replaced by a connection that felt like destiny. Jane's assistant, Saifo, had served her for 6 years, nursing a quiet crush he believed would one day be reciprocated. He noticed Jane's late-night wanderings, her distracted smiles, and her sudden focus on cleaning staff policies. Suspicious, he accessed security footage and saw Jane and Thabo laughing together, their chemistry undeniable. Fury and jealousy consumed him. How could a cleaner capture Jane's heart when he, Saifo, had been by her side for years? Determined to end it, Saifo confronted Thabo in the break room. "You're Thabo Mokoena, right?" he said coldly. "I'm Jane's assistant, and we need to talk about your inappropriate behavior with my boss." Thabo's stomach dropped. Saifo's words were sharp, accusing Thabo of chasing Jane's wealth, pointing out their different worlds. "You're a distraction," Saifo said. "She'll tire of you. End this now, or you'll regret it." Thabo's insecurities flared. Saifo's accusations echoed his own fears, that he'd never fit into Jane's world, that he was a fleeting novelty. That night, when Jane found him, his smile was forced. "We need to talk," he said, leading her to the lounge where they'd met. "This can't work, Jane. We're too different. I love you, but I'm not enough for your world. I'm quitting." Jane's heart shattered as Thabo walked away, his words ringing with finality. She sat alone, the lounge now a painful reminder of the beginning. Jane's grief turned to rage when she learned Saifo's role in Thabo's decision. She confronted him, her voice icy. "You destroyed something real," she said. "Pack your things and leave." Saifo's apologies fell on deaf ears as Jane turned away, her resolve hardening. Thabo took a job at a small cleaning company in Randburg, but the work felt hollow without Jane. Every polished floor reminded him of their nights together. Meanwhile, Jane threw herself into work, her warmth replaced by the cold efficiency her staff remembered from before Thabo. A month later, Jane found an employee survey in her inbox. One comment, in Thabo's neat handwriting, thanked the company for the wage increase that had changed his life. The words reignited her determination. Thabo wasn't after her money. He was a man who'd loved her for her, and she wasn't giving up. Using a shell company, Jane bought Thabo's new employer, implementing better wages and a scholarship fund. Thabo was stunned by the changes, unaware of Jane's hand. Then a new co-worker, Jabu, joined the team, a tall, gray-eyed man who seemed oddly familiar. Jabu was Jane in disguise, trading her wealth for a chance to be near Thabo, without barriers. Working with Jabu, Thabo felt an inexplicable pull. Jabu's humor, kindness, and quiet intelligence reminded him of Jane, though he dismissed it as wishful thinking. They grew close, sharing coffee breaks and dreams. Thabo's coding aspirations, Jabu's stories of growing up in a small town. When Jabu asked Thabo for coffee after work, he said yes, drawn to the comfort of their connection. At a scholarship ceremony, Thabo's world shifted again. The anonymous benefactor was announced, Jane Mbatha. Thabo's heart stopped as he realized Jabu was Jane. "You lied," he said, hurt and betrayal in his voice. "I thought Jabu was real." "I'm sorry," Jane said, tears in her eyes. "Everything I felt as Jabu was real. I just wanted to be with you, without my world coming between us." Thabo walked away, needing space, but Jane's words lingered. She'd given up her empire to be with him. Slowly, he turned back. "No more lies," he said. "Just us, honestly." Jane nodded, pulling him close. "I promise." 6 months later, Thabo stood in the Sterling Enterprises lounge, no longer in a cleaning uniform but a tailored suit. Jane waited at an altar adorned with protea flowers, her eyes shining with love. As Thabo walked toward her, their friends and family watching, he knew their love had bridged worlds. Their story, born in a Johannesburg tower, proved that love, when fought for, could conquer anything.